a very prominent saying, which I have latched onto, and I think it's one of the best. You may be a skin to me, but you are not akin to me. Anyone have an idea what that means? You may be a skin to me, but you are not akin to me. Come off, Mike. Give me your opinion.
Yeah. Well, I kinship means family, right? So even though we have, I don't know, it's interesting. I'm just thinking he's just, I don't know, who is he talking to? Is he talking to like a
As
person?
a
Oh, is
whole,
that the
the
same?
general of the black community. So he was
Mm-hmm.
saying, you may be a skin to me, but you are not akin to me.
Oh, understood. Yeah. So it's just like, yeah, you could be a black person, but do you think like a black person?
Ding,
Like,
ding, 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 ding. So right on the whole point. So the issue may be we have people who look like us. However, when we're speaking about anti-black racism, it's about ensuring that we're talking the same language in the sense that we are trying to move policies, procedures, implementation, so that the documents that lead us in our various work environments, whether it be a system, an institution, an organization, a business, it's clearly speaking and addressing issues of anti-black racism that impacts people, whether it be from the microaggressions that are taking place in the workplace, from the various hiring practice, from the promotional procedures within the organization, and the complaint process, that our issues are clearly heard and addressed. Sorry, 1 second for me, please. Please just read this while I quickly take this. Sorry, Rob, I'm going to call you back in a little bit, okay? Actually, sorry, what I was going to say, Rob, when you have the access to let people in, could you ensure that Angelique doesn't get into that conversation if she tries to access it? That's the ERC. No, but yeah, but someone might send her the link because some of the SSTCs and them are going to join. So just in case, don't let her in. And I'll tell you later why. Okay, thanks. Bye bye. Sorry, you guys. Been trying to connect with my other colleague for a bit here. All right. So when we talk about anti-black racism, right? It's the prejudice, the attitudes, the beliefs, the stereotyping, and discrimination that is directed at people of African descent and is rooted in their unique history and experience of enslavement and its legacy. Anti-black racism is deeply entrenched in Canadian institutions, policies, and practices to the extent that anti-black racism is either functionally normalized or rendered invisible to the larger white society. Anti-black racism is manifested in the current social, economic, and political marginalization of African Canadians, which includes unequal opportunities, lower socioeconomic status, higher unemployment, significant poverty rates, and overrepresentation in the criminal justice system. A lot of times what we'll have is within our own dialogue, because it's us as Black people in the conversation here, is that people, oh, we weren't part of slavery. I don't know anything about that. I only know about present day. All right, then. If you do not want to go to the full colonial frameworks of what you envision as what slavery is, where are we currently in the institutions that we sit? So yes, we have Black individuals who are CEOs, CFOs, or COOs of companies. However, has the policies changed with regards to hiring within these institutions and systems? Has the promotional structure changed within these institutions or systems? Or for you, and be able to obtain, even if it's just entry position jobs, or being able to do a lateral move even within the companies you may exist, how is it that you have deemed anti-Black racism in affecting you? Or do some of you believe that you haven't been impacted? And then my question would be, why do you think that? So come off mic, you guys, because we're going to do an interactive dialogue today, right? So unless you got some big dog barking in the background or a choo-choo train, come, I want to see faces in that and let us interact. It's a small group today.
I can
Go
start
ahead,
off.
Jessica. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I just remember um, earlier on, like growing up, and people would even tell, like social workers would tell me not to even put my street address on my resume because if you have a certain address, then you were deemed as, well, if you're from a certain area, you already know that you're already a bad person and you're already Black and there's already all these negative things against you. So like off the bat, since I was young, like I always knew that my area where I lived also deemed me as like lesser than. And like I've been lucky though because I sound white and I have a white name, for the most part, it put me through the door. Like some people are just like, oh yeah, and talk to Jessica, and then like when they see me, they're like, wait, what? Like I thought you were whatever. So it's like, yeah, no, these things are definitely normalized. People are not even aware of their own biases. Yeah, I've seen it time and time again in the workforce here. So
Well, let me ask you, even though you realize that you have normalized even the anti-black racism, that's a
yeah, that is true. But
I,
I'm using it
I'm
to my own
that's
advantage,
what you
though.
said, right? You just
I
said
have to.
that I sound white, and you know what I mean? So it's even that all of us
Mhm.
and you missed one of our earlier classes when we're talking about the aspects of articulation, right? That there's all
Mm,
of a sudden this mindset that Black people don't know how to articulate, that
right,
we
or speak
don't have
English.
any sense of
Yeah.
semblance of a normalcy of our tone, our cadence, right?
Hmm.
And that goes back to the fact about the media always showing the Black people with coonery or the Black people with ebonics or the Black people with just full accents. And
Hmm.
then it's all that the component about what are we equating intelligence and knowledge and being versed on, because even if you had an accent, even if you had the use of ebonics, if I say, y'all, what y'all doing, isn't that still saying, what are you guys doing? Is that
Right.
still not the essence of what it is? It's whether or not, if I have to write it in a dissertation or a piece of paper, whatever the case scenario, we want to be far more grammatically sound, etc. And
Hmm.
that's later on in our public speaking. But we ourselves have to start to look and say, oh my God, we've internalized these colonial frameworks and the anti-black racism, that to be accepted, to be in a societal framework, this is how we must speak, or this is what we have to present, or even the fact,
Right.
and I'll discuss later,
Hmm.
you were apprised of the fact that yes, your geographical location, so if you're a Jane and Finch, a Flemington, a Malvern, a Regent Park, right, even some parts of Brampton now, they
Hmm.
know the area code, they know the name type of a deal. So automatically it's associated with Black or with racialized people living within those areas, right? Like
Hmm.
everybody just know you say Brampton, it's like, why, bunch of Indian people then, or right? So, and then they try to figure out if you're more southwest Brampton, okay, that's more where the Black people are. So, right?
Mm.
People start to differentiate even by those points.
Hmm.
Anybody else?
I can
Hi.
share. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go Janelle, and then I'll let, I think it was Tasia or Caitlin. Go, Janelle.
I can share an experience that actually happened in my household this morning. So it's early, and my brother is mowing the lawn, and he's a little bit excited because we have a beautiful tree in my front yard that has like flowers and it's blooming. So there's a lot of bees around. So he now is running from the bees just for a neighbor to call the police on him.
Oh my
And
God.
this is a neighbor that's seen your brother all of these years or all of this time. And what was Becky's reason for calling the police?
Well, the police didn't disclose, which neighbor it was. But yeah, they called the police and they questioned my brother, and it paralleled to, if you guys know Elijah McClain,
Mhm.
who was just walking home with a mask on because he had anemia and he was cold, and for the police to be called on him for no reason, and he died. Right? They injected him with enough ketamine for a 200-pound man.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And those are the stories too that don't get the light of day, and people don't hear the full vested component of it. So here's my thing. So you do real. So it's where, what is it, TPS or PO? Where are you at, Janelle?
In Oshawa, so
You're
it's
not
Durham
sure.
Regional Police
It's
Services.
Durham.
Yeah.
Right? So you can make a do a formal complaint to Durham Police Services. You guys can go in and say, on this date, the officers attended your premises and
Yeah.
you want to know the nature of the call, right? And you need to get the officers' names and you want their badge numbers so that you can do a formal complaint, because then that can lead to something else. Because the issue is, for him to be running around screaming, okay, did the neighbors decide to say then there was a wellness check? Because in light of whatever, right? If you see someone running around screaming or whatever the case for however long, you don't know what it is. It could be a valid call to say, hey, however, if these are people who've been your neighbors for umpteenth whatever, and he's running and kind of waving his hand or whatever, I'm sure he would have been ducking, because obviously bees don't just come, that you're going to try to maneuver.
Yeah.
There should have been some semblance. Now, when they got to your house, and I'm just curious, when they came to the house, they asked to speak with him or speak with the adult in the house?
No, They just questioned him, and that's where we're like, you should have, told a family member when they arrived. And it goes into anti-black racism because this neighbor thinks they're right in their actions, right? Because of the way that the black bodies, specifically black men's bodies, are criminalized or socially constructed to be criminalized. They think it's oh yeah, there's a young black guy with a do-rag running up and down the street. Right away they're like, yeah, something's up. And that goes into how we have been constructed from these colonial and historical beliefs of slavery and colonialism. So
I'm
that's
sorry,
where these stereotypes are rooted from.
I'm sorry that that happened, but I will ask you to please make sure you guys do a follow-up. And then if you can contact me so that where I can assist to at least ensure that that there's a review of the call. Even if it's a matter to have the conversation with the officers that next time that they do attend any premises where there's a minor, that they have to speak with an adult to make sure that they can garner the information. And if there needs to be an apology rendered, then we try to ensure that an apology is rendered, right? Or they go speak with that neighbor to be very mindful of the calls and the nature as to how the calls are made. All right?
Okay.
One second again, sorry. Yes, yes. Yes, Rob? Okay. So let's follow up. Okay, was it Tasia or Caitlin that was next? I know someone had come up.
Yes, Caitlin.
Okay.
I think like what people say in light of everything that's happening in North America and to create more jobs for Black people is a good initiative. And like one way, a good first step is by having numbers like to meet the four main groups like Black, visible minorities, Indigenous, and so on. And what's the next step after that? Because maybe organizations say we've met we've hit our numbers, so we don't need to continue to hire from the four groups, women and so on. So like how can you take it further?
Well, this is the thing is then you got to figure out though, and that's the question that needs to be posed back to the Black North Initiative. Because with them just making their platform that, well, we want to see representation of whatever 5% in your organization. Okay, so all right, everybody gets you to the 5%. So now do we stop hiring any more Black people because we've now met your magic wand and we showed that we're not racist, we're diverse in our representation? Like those are the issues that come into play when we talk about in our need to ensure that there is access. We should never have limitation to the access, right? Because then it still comes back to, we still have more people who have the skill sets and the value that can develop any type of business, organization, institution. So we have to be very mindful. But the follow-up would be in that sense is for them to then do an analysis after this is finished, after the 5 years, and they've given them a 5-year window. So in 5 years, there needs to be analysis of all the TD banks. Okay, in the 5 years, how many Black people did you hire across all of your various branches? What are the divisions that the Black people have been hired in? It might be interesting to find out all the Black people are just tellers, right? That we don't have anyone that's now the COOs, or we don't have anyone that's in the financial investment. We don't have people at the positions that provide the mortgages or the loans, right? So that's where you want our people so that when we go in, it has you have a better access flow of information and be able to look at the stories that are applicable. So the review is really important. That would be the next step, is to have that review to see where is the accountability measures and is it really something that is just marginalized and menial, or is it something that's tangible, measurable, and can impact our communities?
And just to follow up quickly, do you think that also comes down to people supporting their own, like Black people supporting Black people and so on? Because like you'll see like organizations for those within firms. Or is it like up to the senior leadership to be promoting?
Well, in this case, when you deal with anti-Black racism, it's for the white society to be the ones. They're the ones in power, right? So when we speak about anti-Black racism, Black people are not in the positions of power. It's a white institution. So what's being pushed is to say that they have to understand the colonial frameworks that have been entrenched and been the legacy in the way in which that operations have been happening, And we're saying that we need to change and skew that mindset and what has been delivered to ensure that the opportunities and access are provided. So that's where the push comes in. It's for the white individuals that have to be able to look to their structures to be able to impact and talk about the change that must occur. And that's where we say it must be measurable. They have to be able to measure and show that these things are happening, because it's easy to say that, oh yeah, we've hired. Okay, but where have you hired, right? If you just have Black people as file clerks are tucked behind a desk or over in a corner, and what are they filing? What's the measure? Who are they impacting? Who can see them? Where are they addressing the policies that then help shape the whole organization, right? So that's where key things are important. Tasia?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to relate to Jessica with the normalizing anti-Black racism, even with teachers as well too. Like I was reflecting in middle school, I finished my work earlier than the rest of the class, and as I was getting up to get something else, the teacher was like, "This is why the Black students will never succeed." And another time too, when I had a supply teacher, when I told her that my teacher chose me to be the class assistant, she said that could never be so, because people who look like me behave like animals are nothing compared to the kids in private schools. So I think even with that as well, to the expectations of students with like normalizing anti-Black racism and even internalizing that, because there have been moments where I thought a teacher would think less of me, and like that's self-fulfilling prophecy. And then to hear that supply teacher saying that, it does confirm it. So I do see it normalize the school system, and how I have even internalized it sometimes to some degree and extent, and being more aware, like even when I'm in university, no, you're not less than because you're the only Black one in your class. That's okay. So that's how I think about it in terms of how it's been normalized and how students are viewed, and how we kind of create self-fulfilling prophecies for ourselves as well too, with degrading our value and what we bring to the table.
Lika?
What was the question again? Okay.
So basically, we're talking about anti-Black racism. Have you have an experience or overview or sight in the perspective as to how do you see anti-Black racism as a young Black female? What do you see? How do you see it?
Okay. I went to Peterborough one day with my friend, and I don't know, but we like food, so we're food critics. If there's no salt in the food, we'll say there's no salt. So for us to come and into this establishment and say, oh, the spinach dip wasn't like proper, like it wasn't even my food, it was my friend's. So I'm sticking up for my friend. I'm like, yeah, no, she doesn't like it, so can you do something about it? So we brought this order 3 times. They brought it back 3 times to us. And then the manager comes now, and then the manager's like, oh, yeah, you scammers. I'm like, what? You scammers? Yeah, all you guys do is go to different restaurants and try to scam people's food and try to get free food. I'm like, no, hunty. We do this on a regular basis, okay? We go out, we buy food, and we don't play games. So for him to actually come say that, I got crazy. I don't know. I could have gone crazier, because the way that I act, oh my God, it's ridiculous. But like, all I just had to do was like slam the menus on the floor, because he actually really did disrespect us. And for us being there and everybody's there laughing at us, saying like, yeah, these Black people are in, like, because we were acting like tourists, literally. Like, we didn't know what Peterborough was, and for them to like look at us and like say that we're scammers, like we were willing to pay for the food. And us Black people, we know about avocados. When avocados is ripe, it's like you could squish it. I got something with an avocado thing. The guy put his hand in my food, okay, and squished the avocado and said it was ripe. I had to look at my friend. I was like, yo, this guy needs to get out of my face, because I will crush him. Because like, I don't know why these white people, not even white people, these people of different color try to make themselves seem like they're more bossy. Like we all bleed the same. I don't know, it just upsets me.
What was the end result? Did you pay for the food or did you leave?
Yeah, we end up paying for the food, and the guy ended up giving
for food that the man put his hand into your food.
Yes, but I had to throw it under his window, and I walked away kindly.
All right, so there's a couple pieces to that. So the way in which you govern yourself. So if something is wrong, because then again, I'm just giving you the other side of it. If you slam down people's menus in the building and all those other types of things, that's damaging property, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. So you never want to do any of those things to give them an upper hand. You already had an upper hand with the fact that you are a customer, right? Your
Mhm.
customer, your food was not what you wanted, but you're in a restaurant, you know the old adage. Ask only once for food to go back. Don't come take food twice and second. That was already spit up and touched on
A
ground.
lie. That's what I was telling her, but she
Yeah.
wanted it.
So
She insisted.
just a rule of thumb, just never do that, right? If you don't like the food, just say you don't want the food, you're good, you're done, and you're finished with that. And again, you have the power for customer. Customer service is very important. When you put them on an IG, on a Facebook, and you just lambaste them with regards to their customer service, what they did, that kills their whole aspect of business inventory. You're more powerful with the pen. The other
I
piece
was
of
just so shocked. Like everything
that,
happened in the blink
be
of an eye. I was like,
mindful.
what the hell?
But you still got to be very mindful on your conduct and what you do, because you also have to remember you went into a white society, into a lily white city. So what the hell
Mhm.
you doing in Peterborough, right? Like
Mm.
sometimes we have to also be mindful. Like yes, we want to traverse the city, we want to traverse our country, we want to see and do everything everyone else is doing. But again, you're in an anti-racist society, and when you go predominantly in a white society, you don't have no upper hand per se until when the incident has already occurred, and then you either put pen to paper or you get a lawyer or whatever, but you still got to govern yourself in a certain framework because there's nobody there to protect you, right? They're not going to protect you. They don't know you from Adam because you're not someone within their city and whatever's happening. So they're going to do the antics they're doing, right? So just be mindful of the way that you govern. Pen to paper is your that's your most powerful thing. You either then can try to sue later for damages for the fact of the way in which they treated you. And even those little things, when those situations start to pop off, try to have someone have the cooler head, take out your phone, start recording, right? That would have been a nice little suit to get yourself a little bit of money, not no big money, but you would still walked away with a couple dollars in your pocket in the end of it. So you want to be mindful, and in particular, if it's a chain restaurant, that's when you send it to wherever is the corporate head, because that is their brand marketing that they're tampering with, and they don't play with brand marketing. Just as everybody saw with the Starbucks and all of that, they don't play with their brand marketing, especially when you have the
Mhm.
evidence captured and what's going on. Use that, right? But key parts, be mindful where you go. Because even though people want to think, yes, we're in a democratic society, everybody can go and traverse where you want. You can see, you have the right to do, you have freedom of speech, freedom of protest, freedom of blah, 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 blah. But the point is, when you're caught up in a situation at that moment and there is nobody to assist you, you got to still kind of have that little cooler head to just kind of be ready to get the information you require. If you can capture evidence, capture the evidence, get yourself to someplace safe, and then you action, right? Because that's where you at least you haven't done anything where nobody can try to do anything to you. But for the most part, if you're in a racist society, they will do something. Because you don't know if that guy's uncle was the chief of the police. Police could have come. You both could have been in handcuffs. Yeah, you would have been released a few hours later. But the point is, you would have been detained. You have to go through this. Your mugshot would have been done. Your name is processed into a system, all for foolishness because someone would want to be ignorant and didn't appropriately do customer service, right? So where there's racists in our society, they're going to do their foolishness, and then that encumbers on us. Just to, you missed, I don't know if you heard Janelle's story, but you have people who will do things who can cause us great harm and detriment, and they don't think twice about it. So you got to ensure, have a little bit of a cooler head to make sure, okay, in those scenarios, you have the power. Believe it or not, once you're finished, you walk away from that, you have a greater power to damage that person and make them lose their job, especially when you can get it on different social media, you get a letter to a corporate entity. It's very powerful, right? So just think about it that way moving forward, especially with some of these cities or environments that you're going into. All right,
I have an
Mhm.
example.
go ahead, Caitlin.
Yes. So somebody who is close to me, who is also has is Black, was working in an organization for. I have friends who are from Africa and the Caribbean and other areas of the world, and their manager was from the same was was Black. And when it came down to promoting people who were all on the same equal level playing field, like fairly so, did not promote the Black person. So I would like to understand why. Is it a fear? Is it to make them to like they're going to be judged, or
You tell
why?
me, what do you think? Tell me your perspective.
Well, I know that the employee ended up leaving the organization to move on to a better
But
opportunity.
tell me your perspective. Why do you think this is happening? And don't think to give me a rational. I want the honest Caitlin. What is your perspective?
I think we need to support one another.
Yeah, because the main thing is it comes back to what we're saying, that is the anti-Black racism, right? This isn't just about, oh, it's white society. Remember, we have to be careful in the structures of what we're speaking of. Colonial frameworks was based on white society, entering all the other countries, continents, taking, conquering, eradicating other groups, enslaving, taking away rights, taking away privilege, building upon people's enterprise to be able to build their riches, build their empires, and be able to have the structures we see now. Then when you look about what is happening with our Southeast Asians, so whether you want to say Southeast Asian, Indian populations, Chinese populations, predominant numbers of the groups that have the large numbers, their countries are now, they take their mass migration out of their countries because they're overpopulated, right? India, China are overpopulated to extent of the when you want to talk about Haiti's impoverished, if you really look in India and China, there's serious impoverishment that is happening there. All right, like people don't ever talk about it, but they have deplorable situation. That's where when you talk about the rise of the whole sex trafficking and the endangered people are still endangered in India and in China, meaning they're working for people to make money to work off for their families. All right, so it is still happening in those countries, but the people come here. We've had years ago what's called our immigration policy was if you are of Asian descent or if you were coming in from India, you had to at least be able to show or make sure you had at least $250,000 in order to migrate to Canada from your home country. So let you guys start to think about the economics of that. If you're Chinese or Indian to come to Canada, you had to demonstrate you had $250,000 cash. All right, that was to migrate here. So that means those individuals that were able to come into Canada, and we're talking from the 1970s, if you go to our Immigration Act, came here with cash. 250 is what they had. So automatically, they're already at an advantage than just the regular Indigenous and Black society that's in here working, because they had the economy and the commerce to be able to purchase, right? They're able to purchase. So when we think about the upper hand, that when you look at the Asian and the Indian societies, they came with already $250,000. So when we think about the fact that they have land purchase, they're able to purchase homes, able to purchase business, it's based on our own immigration policies. And that's the conversation to even then be able to deconstruct that. So they come with that normalcy and that mindset of thinking, oh, well, we just emigrated to this country, but yet we're able to have homes and businesses. But look, see, so these white people could be right, because the Black people and the Indigenous people, they have nothing. They can't buy homes and they can't do businesses. So we're better than them, right? So that mindset starts to work in Caitlin. So we start to even buy into the point of what we're saying about the meritocracy when I spoke about that a few days ago, and we'll land with this, right? That whole framework up with meritocracy is that if you only work hard, you'll be able to succeed. We all bought into that. Everyone tells you that when I played the Tim Wise, meritocracy. If you only work hard, you will succeed. That is a lie. Because when we look in Black society works very hard. We are, for the most part, far more educated than our white, Indian, or Asian counterparts. We either have double degrees, MBAs, MAs, PhDs, right? So we've worked hard within a system that tells us to work hard, to get education, to strive. We volunteer to make sure our resumes can buffer and look better, right? All of these things, yet we go for interviews after interviews after interviews after interviews, and we still don't succeed. And why? Not because we don't have articulation, not because we don't have the educational framework, not because we don't are able to assimilate the different skill sets. It's color of our skin, the racial divide, the bias, the discriminations that exist within the individual that is across from us, whether they are white, whether they're Indian, whether they're Chinese. Right now in Toronto, one of the big issues the real estate board is looking at, there's been a flood of complaints because the Chinese own the majority of a lot of the homes that are on the market for rent in particular and for sale, and they are refusing to sell. The people have put applications into their home to rent or to purchase. They have said no, and the house or the property still sits on the market for lease. Why? Because it's not because they can't say that people haven't met the criteria, they have. So Caitlin, to your point, the issue is about, we need to address the fact that it doesn't matter if it's of another ethnicity that we're speaking of, right? When we talk about colonial frameworks, is buying into this notion of that there's a hierarchy, a structure of what is better, right? And for the most part, Black people are continually held at that low threshold. There is this barometer of thought of thinking that, well, we can't ascend, we can't do better because we're just stuck. So the question becomes, why is it in your psyche that that's how you see the individuals? Because of our melanin. And it doesn't matter, and this is where we talk about our shadeism, right? Shadeism continues to grow. The lighter you are, the so-called better you are in our society, the closer you are to whiteness, the brown paper bag syndrome. If you speak to your parents, right, who are older, your parents will clearly be able to tell you about back in the day about shadeism and the brown paper bag. It was a major system in the United States. If
Yes.
you were close to a brown paper bag or a lighter, you were passing in white society, right? You got more of the past. Hence the whole conversation. We talk about the whiteness component of this, right? The straightening of our hair, the lightening of the skin, the nose surgery that we want, or the thinner noses, or right? We try to diminish our Blackness and our ethnicity to try to come closer to whiteness because that's what we know is what's past or will be more accepted. So it's all of those conversations. When we're talking about addressing anti-Black racism in institution, organizations, and the systems that are around us, it's changing the mindset of that framework to say that we've seen you for the centuries, not decades, centuries, inhibiting people from the success that we can do in our growth process. And we need to shift and change that. And we need to be at the table where policies can be crafted and procedures can be developed to appropriately ensure that we're reflective of all of the individuals that can impact our society. Okay? All right. So as we move on here, this is Dr. Darold Wing Su, who at the university came up with the aspect of microaggressions. And this is a Asian, actually he's Chinese Jamaican, bless you, who has come up with that framework of really looking at how in institutions in society, we are so biased and discriminatory in what it is that we say, how we conduct ourselves, right? So he says within microaggressions, there are different layers to it and different issues. All right, so the main categories when we talk about the microaggressions, so there are micro assaults, micro insults, and micro validations. What I will try to do, I'll try to see if I can take out certain pieces of the slide deck and compress it so that you guys can have, because this PowerPoint is actually owned by consulting work that I do, so I can't share the way it's set up like this, but I will set it forward so you guys can have it. But write down the professor's name so that you guys can do your search. So it's Dr. Darold Wing Su that you can see on here if you have paper. He's on YouTube. He actually has 2 really great videos that they play of his session and talking about microaggressions. I should have embedded it here. I'll see if I can go find it later. But you want to look at his work to further understand. Okay, so Microassaults are the biggest and most explicitly violent, right, type of microaggressions. They are obvious. They are usually deliberate and on purpose. They can be subtle, but usually aren't. They usually happen when the perpetrator is anonymous. They are being supported by peers around them, and or they know they can get away with it. There's no guesswork in determining if you were the victim of a microassault. So these are the people who are like, oh, your nose is so big, right? You're black like tar. Oh my God. Like, they walk into a room and the lights have turned off and they go, hey, Janelle, can't see you, right? Everybody laughs and thinks it's funny. No, there's nothing cute. There's nothing funny about it, right? Like those are the issues of what we speak of. Okay, so those are the micro assaults. Anybody experienced a micro assault?
Yes. I've experienced that exact scenario where they turned off the lights when I was in an office space and said they couldn't see me. And even in a conference meeting I had on Zoom, one of the health promoters I work with is like, oh, I'm making a jerk chicken for lunch today. And then goes off to do a Jamaican accent. And it's like,
are you even Jamaican?
Right?
Oh my God.
I'm looking at her like, I don't hear no Jamaican there. So. Did you
or when you go to work,
did you say something to her? Did you fling something back?
What I try and do in those situations is not laugh. And when you don't laugh, it makes them uncomfortable and they realize that it's not something funny. So you don't have to, respond with words. A lot of the times you just respond with your demeanor. And that really gets them, feeling uncomfortable, and hopefully they learn from that situation because they think it's cute. And I'm just like,
They either will learn or they'll pull the white fragility card on you, which we'll get into later, right? So when they become uncomfortable, they then turn that into their victimization, right? And that's.
But I have a question though, like why is it like they feel, and it's not even just white people, it's other races as well, right? So it's like, why do people even feel like that's a means for them to feel comfortable, or even to be like that foot in the door to feel comfortable being around you? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, why can't you just act normally and I will still respect you normally? It's just like if I approach you in a normalized manner, like why, I don't know, why do people need to like change their face?
But that's the issue of the power imbalance that exists in institutions, right? They think because they've been able to get away with it. A lot of white people maybe have no black friends, so their only reference points is what they see on TV. And what they see on TV, the black people are always cooning or laughing about the foolishness or clowning on each other by saying, "Oh, girl, you're so dark. Oh, your lip bigger than what?" Right? So they watch those shows and they think that, oh, this is the way that you're supposed to speak with each other. Just like years back, I had a colleague in the teaching environment came into the classroom like, yo, you know that blood clot picked me, right? And I was like, what? Oh, is that what you guys say to the kids like when they're acting up? I said, I'm sorry, pardon me. First and foremost, do you know what blood clot is? And do you know the dragging point about pick me? Like, right? So it's even as the person's like, oh, I thought that's how we're supposed to, right? And then it had to be a whole school and a learning for the person. I'm like, don't ever do that again. Right? To the point of Janelle saying, it's like, don't ever do that again. First, you're culturally appropriating something you have no understanding of what it is, or to the context that it was even used when you were having or heard it, right? So it's those pieces that's there, but because they've become, someone has normalized that for them, right? Whether it be from the media they have seen, or maybe even people they hang around, or to the point where we've had people that are in environments that because they're so uncomfortable, they might be the only one. They fluff it off and let it laugh and go, okay, yeah, Tim, no problem. Okay, Sanjeev, that's okay, right? Because they think it's this norm, but because people have been laughing, they haven't been called out on it. Whereas now in this environment of anti-Black racism, to Janelle's point, people ain't playing no more. Nobody's smiling and laughing with you about an issue. People are calling you out or clearly telling you don't do it. So it's now changing the environment, and that's where the white fragility and the victimization is also going to come into play, whether it's, again, so it's white or Indian or Chinese, in the sense of saying, well, I didn't mean it. Well, if you remember from the human rights presentation, what did she say? It's not intent, it's what?
Oh, Lord, what was the word?
Impact.
Impact. Good. All right. Okay, let us move to the next one. Oh, and who came on here? Let's want to make sure to say hello to everybody. So hello, Francis. Hello, Alexandra.
Hello.
Morning.
Hello,
Okay,
good morning.
morning. So the next one are our micro insults, right? So micro insults are the more tricky microaggressions to identify and also the most common form of microaggression. They are subtle acts which convey contempt, rudeness, and disrespect for someone. They often belittle someone's identity. They are subtle, spur of the moment, backhanded, and it can be hard to tell if the perpetrator is even aware that they're doing is insulted. These can also be nonverbal, such as when a student of color or a female student is overlooked when their hand is raised to contribute to a classroom discussion, right? How many times we have it, right? You got the answer to, not one response do you get. Your name doesn't get called. Who wants to be the class lead this thing? Your hand is up, never acknowledged, not responded whatsoever, right? So simple things. Again, the statement of about, can everybody put their hair up in a ponytail? Right? For gym class, they like to do, can you put in me while you might be struggling, trying to get your little bun together, and but the things that they'll do, and it's to cause that little bit of impact. Or for swimming, oh, you can't get your hair wet, right? So yeah, you go in the shallow end. I'm sorry, I can swim. And I can put on a shower cap, or I can put on a skull cap, whatever you call the swimming, what's the swimming thing called again?
Swim cap.
Swim cap, thank you. Right? We can put one on. It can go over our head, believe it or not, right? So all of those type of statements that are the backhanded that come into play. Can anyone think of a micro insult that you have experienced over your years that still now might sit and you're trying to think, did that person insult me? Did they insult me? Or right? Because that's what the micro insults are. Sometimes you're like, what just happened there?
I was at work and basically, I don't know, it was my second day and you know us, we had to meal prep for the whole week. So I'm bringing my lunch, you know me, chicken, rice, everything. Mans are looking at my food and they're like, oh, say where, you should bring food for me. And they're talking about potluck. They're talking about jerk chicken. They're like, oh yeah, I can make a nice jerk chicken. And I was like looking at them. I'm like, buddy, your jerk chicken is probably white. Stop the fuckery. You're playing games too much. Just the way that they were acting, they were always telling me, oh yeah, bring some food for me. Wagwan, I was like, I just have to kindly like sip my tea or sip my juice and go on easy. Cause like it's a workplace and it's full of Italians. Like I'm not having it with them. They're not getting me, especially with race. No, the establishment in Peterborough already got me. The workplace is not getting me.
Because you just have me dead right now because I'm like, do you live in Peterborough? Do you live in Peterborough?
No, I live in. I recently moved to Hamilton, so I came. I'm from Toronto, so yeah.
But what field of work are you in?
General labor.
Okay. So you already then in a field that's male white dominated.
Yeah, they
All
hate.
right? So,
They
okay,
hate.
so you have a different aspect as to how you maneuver that. And you're going to have to remember, yes, and in a predominantly Italian and Portuguese dominated environment, you know, those type of micro insults are going to happen. As a matter of fact, they're going to give you micro assaults, period, because Italians are very brazen in the sense of they're just, hey, you muli, right? Like they're used to just talking and saying quite blank and quite
bossy. Yeah.
You're going to have to address these things in different frameworks. However, I will say to you, I know you're comfortable with us on in this group, and I'm happy that you're comfortable. But make sure you don't swear with them because you don't want anybody then firing you because
that's true. No, not in the workplace. I can't swear.
Right, you gotta just.
You're gonna get me.
But I get it. You're comfortable and you're trying to share. So don't worry. I'm not going to be a prude. I just want to try to acknowledge certain pieces of saying like just make sure it's not at the work site. You got to find ways to really address them to say, hey guys, I think I'm happy that you feel comfortable with me to think that I would be making you jerk chicken. However, we're not in the 1800s, so I don't make food for people unless it's from.
I just have to smile and nod, literally.
Huh?
I just have to smile and nod, literally.
No, but it's not just smile and nod. No. It's still, your face can still be with a wrenched up screw face and be quite clear to be like, no, I'm not.
Oh, it's a mask.
I am not. Right? You just have to address and put in the framework. So we're not, so basically you're saying I'm no longer in slavery time. So I don't cook for anyone, and potlucks are not something that I like to do, in particular because of the sharing of fluids or people in a hygiene issue or etiquette issue. So I don't do that. But thank you, and don't bring it up again, right? So then they'll be walking away, and of course they're cursing you under their breath. They're in their own little small corners. But the point was rendered and made. So you got to still make sure you land your positioning. Because if you pay attention, if you were paying attention to the human rights presentation, that if later it exacerbates the points that lead you to uncomfort and other things are building up, you have made the notation and you have made the statements clearly to the individuals, right?
True.
Anybody else with regards to micro insults?
I feel like an example a lot of us can relate to is being called, "Oh, you're pretty for a black girl." So they'll tell you, they'll compliment your beauty by, you know, underhandedly insulting your race.
Yeah, that is the backhanded compliment, right? Because it makes you go, right? Because you're doing, okay, what's, because you're right, because then you're running through all the beautiful black women in your head going, well, hold on, half of your women can't even match up, right? So you're like scratching your head and it's like, do I say thank you? Or do I have to really call you out on this little foolishness, right? So you have, but that's an excellent one. Anybody else? Caitlin, go ahead. Tasia, go ahead.
Similar to if you're pretty for a black girl, you're smart for a black girl. Another one as well too, not a saying, but I worked at Wonderland in grade 9, and you have to have a uniform hair color. But I had my hair, I had my single braids, and she came over to me and she said, "This is not acceptable. You can't wear this." And I'm thinking to myself, you know how it is when you get your hair done. That's not cheap.
Yeah.
So now I this out to satisfy the protocol, and I said, "What's wrong with it?" And she said, "It's not according to standard." So kind of like insinuating that it's not the norm or the dominant culture, kind of like in gym class where it's like, everybody put your hair in a ponytail, and if you can't do that, you're penalized for something that you don't have control of. So I think that's what I've experienced through a micro insult, being told that it's not in accordance to company policies when someone else of a different skin tone has bright neon blue hair and they're good, but because it's all one color, they're fine. So that was a bit off to me. And I didn't realize it at the time because it was my first job. I'm like, okay, you know, do everything right. But now when I'm thinking, I'm like, they really had me a couple of times, and all because I was just trying to keep my composure and it was my first job. But now I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
Right. And you now will look at the human rights presentation and know what category that falls into, in the sense of it was a breach, right? So
right.
little things that you want to, you know, hope you guys are soaking things in and doing the cross-referencing to know where these are intersected and how best you can set yourself up. Anybody else with a micro insult before we move on, or a micro insult? So you guys didn't get the, oh, you're smart, or you speak well. Right? That's the major one they love to throw out.
But
Right?
like at the university that I went to like years ago, there was, well, most of the people at the school, like they came from like small towns and stuff. And it was really just me and like a few black girls at my school. But in any case, so I remember one time they're like, one of the girls, like they felt really comfortable with me. And she like kind of said it passively, but I heard what she said. And she's like, "Oh, like I was surprised that you and Sam actually speak like very good English." And I'm like, what? Like I lived in Toronto my whole life, like, and they've never really interacted with other races before. So like when she said that, like my friend didn't even catch it, but I had to tell him like, "Yo, did you hear what Stephanie said? Like she just said that she's surprised that we even speak English." And I'm like, I get shook when I hear white people don't even speak English, you know what I mean? And they have like European accents and all that stuff. So I'm just like, what are you talking about? But yeah.
But those happen, right? And for us, it's become water off our back. So to a point where people don't acknowledge a lot of times, it's just like whatever, keep it moving type of a deal. But those are the micro insults that are taking place on a daily basis, and people suck it up and they keep on going. And we have to just be mindful, right? So the environments that we're in, going back to Caitlin's original, why would the person not do the promotions, or why they're not. It's these aspects of the microaggressions, the colonial frameworks, the thinking that are just embedded, and people just naturally will fall back onto those the biases that they have that are implicit and innate, rather than try to go beyond. And that's where we're trying to make sure we bring things to the forefront so that we can impact change, right? All right. And the final group are the micro invalidations, and this kind of falls in with the comments that I just made those. So the micro invalidations are what Dr. Durald Wing Sue calls the most insidious form of microaggression, and is the most subtle form of microaggression. Micro invalidations are when someone tells or implies to someone that their experiences or discrimination aren't real. These microaggressions aren't just covert, but completely hidden. They often don't even mention the identity they are targeting. The perpetrator almost never realizes they're doing something harmful. Doesn't mean to do harm, yet harms nonetheless. These are the microaggressions that makes every other microaggression so much more stressful, because they cause you to doubt yourself about whether a microaggression even just happened. They cause thoughts like, did that person act the way they did because I'm trans, or am I overreaching or overreacting, or is it my fault, right? So again, this is where when the white fragility comes in, where you'll be in a work environment, and people are at a lunch table. There's a seat that's open, and then you go to sit. They're like, no, you can't sit here. Tammy's coming, right? So you pick up your items out of courtesy, and you go sit. The whole lunch hour, you realize not one Tammy ever showed up to sit in that seat. Right? So then you question, and you'll be like, they just discriminate against me. And they'll go to their boss and be like, no, Tammy did say she was coming, but we don't know why she arrived. Like, she's making it up. Why would we do that? Why would we isolate her? Right? So just different things. It could be a one-off, or it could be on many occasions that these incidents occur. Right? And this is where you within yourself are saying, no, I'm really feeling ill at ease. There's something that is not right, but you can't put your finger fully on the pulse. And then you have the others who are always looking at you like, no, something's wrong with her. She's making it up. Like, no, we don't have an issue with that person, right? Or when you hear the statement about, oh, she's so always angry. And you're like, angry? Where am I angry? This is my tone. This is my cadence. I'm asking you guys for clarification, because I'm not understanding how you've rendered your decision, or how we came to this as our procedure. So I would like clarity. Oh, see, she's always asking, she's always trying to put us on defense, and we feel uncomfortable about that. Like, she's never on our side with anything that we're doing. But yet again, my perspective, my viewpoint is different than yours. I need to know, how are you getting, what was left out, what's the void in the analysis to render this? And for the most part, they look at you all the time as the other, and not seeing their own mindset, their bias, their framework from the lens in which they proceeded to develop these policies, procedures, or whatever they were doing. They don't know what has been left out, or that other voice that has not been looked at. Any statements, questions?
It's funny because it's like we're talking about adults here. It's not like we're just talking about children. And like it shows too that like in our education system here, like I know there's hopefully soon there will be like a reform in our education system where there is like better at least tolerance for like emotional intelligence, and just like kids are just aware of even their own biases at a younger age, because like to have these conversations as like an adult, because like to me, like in the way how you're just like, talking about like these situations, it's like really like when do we as like human beings get to a point where it's like, all right, like I put these things behind me and I can move forward, or like I don't know, there's like a sense of maturity. And I just feel like some people just don't want to mature, and some people just don't care to like evolve, you know what I mean?
So it's a multitude of things, right? One could say maturity, again, one could say no, it's just your bias and your discriminatory practices. Yeah. Others will say it's just the ignorance, right? If I have not been exposed to something, then I don't know better, right? Mm-hmm. So then if you are exposed to it, then you better change and know to do better, or surmount the perspective or feeling where you're at to ensure that you can change. But that's the stress load. If anyone looked at the article that came, I think was in the Globe and Mail, the stress that is on the Black community is so it's like heightened to a level where we're having the greater numbers of death. right? Because when you think about, we are harboring, we are holding in our stress. Every day we put on this protective armor. We say our grace when we go out our door to hope that, nobody does anything to us, or we don't say the wrong thing in an environment because our job is precarious, because someone can fire us if we challenge. So even though we see the wrongs happening in our workplace, we don't say anything because we don't want to lose our job. We will take the microaggressions, the micro insults, because again, our paycheck is maybe what our only family is dependent on. In particular for women, women are the ones carrying the bulk of their families. So we can go back into the history of what our mothers, my mother was a domestic worker. That's how she came to this country. Even though in Jamaica, she worked for the British Embassy, right? But to come to Canada, and she wanted Canada, not England, they were able to say, okay, Sarah, we know you work here. You're a really good, administrative woman. But for us to transition, if you want to go to this place called Canada, we could send you to a new city called Windsor that the industry is developing, so your husband would have a job, but you got to go as a domestic. Well, we can do those, put you with a very rich family that has the largest trunking company because we know them, and hopefully it works out. But those are the things you do as women. We put ourselves into these positions, right? We live our children, we then send for our children 2-3 years later after we've made money, and then we have to work. But you suffer the slings and arrows, right? You give up pieces of yourself to make sure that you can abridge and surmount and develop and do better. Well, in today's society, people are continually doing this. These issues of discrimination, of racism, of bias, of impediments continue to exist. And this is where the conversation, I think Caitlin was trying to touch on it, about where do Black people start to unite and say, how do we help one another? How do we make sure we build and create that mental safety and the economic safety? And this is where, for your generation, you guys have to start to do it. You're the 20s. Right? And I wish some of you guys had the book already, was reading, but if this is your age where you guys have to start to form. Some of you are mothers, or going to be mothers. You're going to be wives soon. You're going to be, entrepreneurial business women. You're going to be heads and leads of different institutions or organizations or in positions of power. You got to start to have that shape of sense of confidence as to who you are and what you are, right? So that you don't fall for the pitfalls, but clearly can stand within your own presence. And that's part of this workshop, that within the different presentations you have, that hopefully you've taken it, you will garner it to hone your skill set so that you are strong within knowing that the confidence in you is what you require, right? All right, so let me move on a bit because I want to get into the whole public speaking because there's a lot there. So we kind of already know the microaggressions and how to spot them. I'm going to skip off. As I said, I will do the slide deck appropriately so that you guys will be able to get this. I want to go into allyship real quick though. So right now, allyship, we know, is for anyone who is not Black that then is there with us in the sense of this whole march and movement for ensuring that anti-Black racism is acknowledged and then policies and procedures have a shift. But we want to also be mindful, right? Because we do have a lot of individuals that are other that feel that they can speak for us all the time. And that's not what it's about. It's not about this individual always speaking for us. It's about the individual, where we are in environments that they see that you are getting a roadblock or you are continually being impeded from being able to make procedures to finally speak up and speak out and to clearly address the issue on the sense of riding with you, not overstepping the boundaries, but making sure that they clearly note your positioning and points, and then also interject that where they believe the change should come from the white society, or whether it's from Southeast Asian or Chinese communities, to aid you to go further. I'm not going to go delve into the definitions or the meaning. Because I will get this to you because I really want to get to public speaking. Francis, do you have anything you want to add to this with the allyship or anything?
Sorry, I was on mute. No, I'm good, thank you.
All right. And then here, when we look about the allyship, right, is the sense of right, is an active and consistent process of using power and privilege to achieve equity and inclusion while holding ourselves accountable to marginalized people's needs. The term ally does not denote an identity. It's not who you are, it's what you practice. Being an ally means practicing acts of support and solidarity with marginalized groups, whether or not you personally belong to or identify with the group. Being an ally involves moving from the role as an actor in a status quo or oppression systems and structures to an active person that does the analysis and engage, right? What is performative allyship? Okay, ally recap, so individuals who transfer the benefits of their privilege to those who lack it. Performative allyship, on the other hand, is when someone from that same non-marginalized group professes support and solidarity with the marginalized group in a way that either isn't helpful or that actively harms that group. Who's had this? We're in our various meetings as Black people, we meet in a group and people are sharing their stories about, yeah, you know, and this boss is being this, or we know that this, and then someone steps up and, oh no, she's fantastic. I don't know what you're talking about, right? Our very own same people, we're talking about the issues trying to render, that then sit there like, oh no.
Sure.
And then you have to stop and go, no, that's your personal relationship with that individual. That does not mean that that's that person's behavior and conduct with the majority, because you see, there's over 5-6 people saying that they've had a different experience altogether. And that's been part of our problem within our movements, is that we always have someone that looks or identifies as us, but then gives a different narrative, right? So even when, you know, if you guys are looking politically, you know, the Giovanni gentleman that is now the anti-racist directorate lead, when everyone was doing our whole movement of anti-Black racism, and there he is with the premier and that, oh no, he's doing a good job, and we're trying our hardest so far. We really don't have to look at some of these. It's what, huh? I'm sorry, you're at the highest level to be impacting issues of policy and procedures, and you're saying what? Don't let your experience with that particular group or individual be what you think denotes is the common thread that everybody else is saying, right? So these are things that we want to be very mindful when we're in a room, that even if our relationship with someone that the majority are complaining about, remember that is your personal relationship. I'm always very mindful of that. I may get along with someone and we don't know what the reason is why they get along with me. Maybe they get along with Yvette because they know Yvette is one that they can't push over. So let me become friends with Yvette, that I will never have a conflict, but the other people I'm going to shake, right? Because that happens. People are smart. You yourself know who in your office or your organization you friend up, because they either can help promote you or for whatever reason, but you friend up people for certain reasons, whereas the same other individuals you may treat differently. So we have to play our biases and how it works or how we do certain things, and don't think that it's just a common thread. Because when you have several people complaining about certain things, there is some basis. Questions, inquiry, challenge on that? You don't have to, but it's just there. So what we see here, and we look at the 3 areas of allyship and how it goes. So an ally takes action and challenges the status quo. The passive people reinforce the status quo because they're basically staying there. They're going to get along to get along. And the agent is takes action to maintain the status quo of privilege and oppression, and they continue to push that needle on the other side, opposite to what we're trying to do with our movement, right? And this one, just to see in the case of anti-Black racism that I'll give to most of the groups. I want to hear your perspective though, because it's your generation that continually thinks that the N-word is just a fabulous word to take over and continue to use. So you're walking past a group of white male students in the hallway. You hear them calling each other the N-word in a brotherly sense. You stop and tell them that they should not be using that word. One student replies, no, it's cool. Everyone uses it now. Plus, my Black friend gave me a pass to say it. It's not like what it was back in your day.
Sure.
Everybody, I want everybody's opinion. What you gonna do? What's your response? And even for the people that use it on a regular. Oh, everybody's quiet.
Well, like, I don't know. I don't know. I guess if I was in that situation, I don't know. I feel like.
So
it can go two ways. Like either I would like hype up.
From white boys, just you walking past your regular old black people. You're cool, you're friends. They all just speaking out the N-word like crazy. What are you saying? What are you doing?
Yeah. It depends. Like so, like if it's in front of white people, most likely I might hype up, or I don't know. I might like be like, yeah, like angry stuff. But I think, but typically though, I give people like history lessons. Like even now, like when I talk to people just about like our experience here in Canada or our experience in the Caribbean and all that stuff. Like I always give people like I feel like I'm a historian. Like I just tell people like, yo, people have gone through X, Y, and Z. Like, why do you feel like you have the right to do X, Y, and Z? Or why do you feel like you're owed anything just because, it doesn't, you think that it just because it affected another generation, but there's something called intergenerational, like, occurrences, like the fact that like you can say that now and it still affects me now, like that should deem or tell you that like it's not something of the past. Because if it was something of the past, then we wouldn't be having this conversation, and nor would you even feel comfortable in saying whatever you're saying, right? But yeah, I don't know. I would like bother them with dogma on like just history lessons and stuff like that. But then it's like interesting because like if it was the reverse, like they would easily call the police and feel like they have like some sort of societal authority to like support them. Whereas like for us is like if people are doing oppressive things to us, we don't have like a governing body which we can like go to and be like, oh, these people are doing something like offensive to me and I need your protection, right? Like I don't feel like as a people we have that. Because even if you're to make a case to the police, it's like to them, most of them will be like very passive aggressive with it. But in any case, I just think that I would just give people like a history lesson as to like what they are doing and make them kind of feel dumb and think about what they're saying.
Okay, next, anybody else? Anybody else? What would you do? So you're walking past people and you're hearing the N-word just being flown out like crazy. So whether or not it's a group of white boys or a group of your black brothers or sisters, what's your perspective? What's your viewpoint? What? Everybody's quiet. Come
I
on.
just had to give him that look, honestly. It's all, with me, I'm very intimidating. When I look at you a certain way, you need to know like to keep it down, like know who you're talking to. I actually had to crush you straight because I don't understand why you would have to use that word. Like we would like the new word now. What is it? Oh my God! Hold on. Karen. They're calling white people Karens. We wouldn't say that, okay? So for them to come say, "Oh nigger this nigger," no, hunty, relax. You just need to give them that stern look and be like, correct yourself, like come correct, sorry, this can't happen. Because if you get into the details, then they'll be like, oh, da. No, I can't have that, and then police are going to be called. No, I can't do it with them. You just have to give them that look. Real shit.
Okay, next. Caitlin, Alexandria, Tasia.
I think with that, why they choose to say that, why it's normalized. I would ask, look, I think it's I wasn't thought because it reminds me of when people say, oh, that's so gay, like how they take the word, but it indirectly is an insult because like just taking the word for something else. So I would ask why they think something that has so much of a historical background, so people being called that before they're lynched is so cool. And just because they got a passport does not erase the meaning behind it. Because if I call you a cracker, doesn't matter if my other white friend says it's okay. How does that make you feel? Or a KKK member. I think I was just in thought because I know that the word's mentioned a lot in music, because I was thinking to myself why it has become like so normalized, and why we have subconsciously used it within our community, and like why it's infiltrated in like hip hop and such. But I don't know the answer to that, or perhaps you could provide insight on that afterwards, why it's been something that has been turned over, or was it because, oh, this once meant something bad in history, so let's take it and recreate it because it was directed to us anyways. Like I just kind of confused with like how it got changed over and how it's like a familial term for some folks now.
Right. Anybody else? Okay, so as when we look at this, and I think you just touched on it, the fact that some people, was Jay-Z and a few others that said that, oh, they're going to make this become a term of endearment. We're going to try to make it positive, Lil Wayne and those guys. And it's like, there is no positivity to that word, none whatsoever. From the historical framework, from the Jim Crow laws to the aspect of the Willie Lynch framework as to how to discipline Black people, there is nothing positive about the word. It is all steeped in negativity, from the death, from the degradation, all of those factors. That no matter how we think we are trying to use that as some type of a term of endearment or a greeting of another Black person, is just, I just look at it and say you're ignorant beyond what is the norm. Because anyone outside of our race, when they hear that word, they know what the connotation is of that. You are low down, no good, you're an ingrate, you're not valuable, blah, blah, blah. That's what that means. And for us to keep perpetuating it over and over, like it grates on my nerves to hear that word. Like anyone that knows me, if you're at any functions I have where people are there, they have to find the clean version, or they better block that word so it doesn't come through, period. Because I don't subscribe to it, right? Because for me, that's where the fight will come out. Because once I tell you once, don't use it. Don't use it a second time in my presence, right? Because there is no value to it. We cannot put a positive, because to the point, if yes, the KKK come walking down the road spewing it, you can't get vexed. How are you getting vexed when you were just spilling it out your lips a little while ago? It was dripping from your lips while you're even grooving. So now all of a sudden, because it's another group that's using it, you want to feel as if you're vexed? It doesn't make any sense, because you are just degrading your own people in the same conversation a little while ago. And this is what I'm saying, for this age group, there has to be far more of a conscious movement. If we're talking about anti-Black racism, the raising up of a collective, the working together to show your value, your worth, your merit, then we have to be positive in the way that we see, we speak, we greet one another, to ensure that others cannot infiltrate with negativity. Until we take out our own negativity, we're going to have a problem, because they continue to point back the figure and go, oh, Black lives matter? All lives matter. Look at you Black people. Every day, 3 of you killing each other on the street. So Black lives matter, huh? Right? And that's what keeps getting spun back, because we're not taking the time to see our own value, to do that analysis. And we must start to do that. Until we continue to let the loopholes exist, we got to be mindful. Put our value and our merit as the number one factor within our society. Start to greet people again. Hello, good evening, good afternoon, how are you? There's no reason that when we see each other as Black people, why do I not have a smile on my face? Yes, for decades, these people have put us in a rut. They have put us on the defense. However, I am not your enemy. If you and I have never had an issue prior, why is it that when we see each other in a room, right? Why is it that when we walk in, hi, I don't need to look you up.
I am not able to see who has registered.
Oh, sorry, I just hit the button. It was
on
Sarah.
Zoom, right?
Sorry, Sarah came in.
Give me one moment.
Can you see her now? Hi, Sarah.
I'm gonna have to try and see if you're saying that there is a way. I have to figure out how I can
Okay, Sarah, can I
how I
ask
can
this
get
of
into
you,
that.
Sarah? Sarah, can you exit and come back in for me, please?
Yeah, for sure.
No. I'm gonna send you. I thought I did already. I'm gonna send you the direct Zoom link. Okay, so you don't have to. Well, actually, you know what? The Zoom link, you do have to register. Yeah.
Okay, so Sarah, we'll find somebody to
You
get
could do
you
it.
there.
Oh, and I forgot to ask, would you be able to log on 15 minutes before? Okay, perfect.
Sorry, Gavin, who are you speaking to right now?
Nice. Okay, and if you have
Gavin?
any questions before then, please feel free to reach out. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Gavin?
Hi, Yvette. It's Caitlin.
Hold on,
I'm so
Caitlin.
sorry.
Gavin?
I didn't realize I wasn't muted.
Okay, thanks. Okay, go, Caitlin.
Sorry, I forgot to say at the beginning of the session, but I actually have I'm actually unable to stay for the second half.
No problem.
Okay.
This link will be up and sent to you, right? So you'll have the whole PowerPoint. All right?
Thank you.
No
Have a
problem.
nice day.
And the same to you, my dear. Okay, so Gavin, I know you went mute right now, but hopefully you'll let Sarah back in because I think Sarah exited. We thought you were speaking to us, so Sarah exited out. So can you please ensure to let her back in?
I'm so sorry. I don't understand. I probably clicked the button by mistake. I apologize.
That's okay. Just to ensure we can let Sarah back in.
Will do.
Thank you. I forgot my train of thought where it's at. Oh, on the N word and that. But the main thing is just, let's try to have a conscious awakening and don't use that word period because we can in any way, subscribe or make you come to anything that is positive, no matter which environment you're in, whether you're around other white people, Asian people, Indian people. If you use the N word, it is nothing but a negative term. And there is nothing positive. So don't use it. Let's find positive ways to uplift each other and make sure that as moving forward, we truly have that respect for one another. Yes, this is what I was on. There's no reason why we need to have any type of disregard for any of our females, right? Like a lot of times we like to look at people and we're looking at people up and down. Listen, we're all beautiful in our skin. No matter what we look like, we can be from the highest of hues of whiteness to the darkest shade of black to the beauty of the ebony of who we are. Respect one another. All right, we got to start to respect and greet each other. And even if it's in your circle of friends, if you're the first one that starts to do that, you guys walk into a room, hi everybody, hello everyone, and people are like, girl, we have skin up with people first. And don't worry about that. I'm smiling with everybody because the world is beautiful. Right? So we got to start to do the positivity. All right, let's jump into public speaking 101. So I'm going to move through, but as I said, you will get this presentation. So you will have it. I want you to put this into your little file, because this will be what you're going to use to aid you moving forward. And when we're talking about for doing jobs and what you'll have to do for Thursday's interview skill sets that we're going to require. All right, so the art of persuasion and negotiation when we're thinking about this. So for public speaking, I gotta move this here, right? So public speaking entails several key skill sets required to persuade, negotiate your points and issues. One must be confident and assured in your presence and stance. Be informed and knowledgeable ahead of time, aids you to face your opponent or situation without fear or apprehension. Do your due diligence and research prior to the start. So if you say you want to work for a particular company because you saw their ad that they had, you got to make sure that you go and do your research. Find out what is their mission statement, how many people work at the organization, who are the key individuals that are at the head, right? So try to gather as much intel as possible. When you're looking at the job outline that is provided to you, when they tell you they're looking for a financial analyst and they run through the descriptor, when you are developing your cover letter, pull out majority of those words that they have in that descriptor and make sure you are retelling it in that cover letter that you have created. Because for most companies, they're flagging for words. So if you don't have the majority of words that they have outlined, your resume doesn't even get seen because you don't meet that algorithm that's been set up to look for the words, right? For fiduciary rights and budgeting and frameworks and accounting and whatever they may have. So you want to make sure that that cover letter that you craft restates back keywords out of their descriptor and saying what you do. So you want to make sure you do those pieces. All right, career development requirements. You need to be assertive and have self-confidence, have good communication skills, be creative, problem solve with your problem solving skill sets that you bring, developing creativity, digital citizenship, entrepreneurship, interpersonal skills, learning essentials, negotiating skills, personal branding. You got to make sure that you know how you carry yourself. What is your image? What's your portfolio you're coming forward with? Project management, telework and telecommuting, 10 soft skills that you will need. Some of these we're going to address, right? The cloud and business and time management. Some I've left off so that we can go further. I'll have points where I am going to stop for us to discuss. Okay, key, assertiveness and confidence. People need to know the difference. Self-confidence and assertiveness are two skills that are crucial for success in life. You don't feel worthy or you don't know how to express your self-worth when communicating with others, life can be very painful. These skills, these skills will provide opportunities and benefits to your participants in their professional and personal life. So whatever it is that you're doing. Assertiveness is defined as conducting oneself with confidence and not hesitating to express desires and beliefs. While confidence is defined as the trait of being certain of yourself and your abilities, or having total trust in something or someone. The main distinction between the two is communication. The main distinction between the two is communication. I brought it over. Sorry, being assertive can only happen if there is someone or something for you to be assertive towards. So the action component. Whereas confidence can exist inwardly and in isolation. There is no real need for any form of interaction where confidence is concerned. And often during an interaction, confidence is perceived to be assertiveness. Confidence in yourself is often related to knowing you have a high standard of abilities and knowledge in a certain area. Sorry guys, I'm going to go back in and correct grammatical here. Otherwise known as being within your comfort zone. For instance, a person is asked to create a presentation on a subject matter they have vast knowledge and expertise in. This is therefore within their comfort zone, allowing them to feel confident in their abilities to perform the required task. Assertiveness has to have some form of interaction, as the whole trait is about how others perceive you and therefore could not exist without that. Assertive people tend to have very strong communication skills and self-confidence. It is imperative to comprehend the difference between confidence and assertiveness, as well as understand their link. Assertiveness cannot exist without there being an underlying confidence and can only exist in a situation where there is communication. The assertiveness is portrayed through strong body language and vocabulary, as well as tone of voice and expressions. Confidence, however, needs nothing to aid in its existence, as you can be self-confident, taking away any need for communication. The key thing to remember is that you can be confident without being assertive, but you can't be assertive without being confident. That's coming from Morgan K. Berry's work that they do. So, thoughts. Who here is confident? Who here is assertive? Who needs to work on what?
Sorry, Eva, do you mind explaining that last phrase? To be assertive without confidence. Yeah, I just wanted to catch that. You can't be confident without being. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. So what do you think? Because a lot of people don't understand the two. Right? They think if someone's loud, aggressive, or whatever the case is, that, oh, that person must really have, no, not all the time. Right? Or if they say, oh, you have confidence because you speak out, well, you have a dual combination for the most part, right? But a lot of people are confident, but they don't do any form of action. They're not action people. So the assertiveness does not come out. They do not take a stance publicly. They don't challenge or question within a meeting. So that's not assertiveness. Right? But you can still be very confident in your demeanor where you walk within a room, you might be quiet and you might be sitting there, right? You have dressed well, you look well, you present appropriately, so you have confidence about self. You know that you look good. You very well can know you speak very well, but no one will know that until when you start to vocalize. And it's when you start to vocalize or act, that's when people will know if the assertiveness component in you exists. Do we understand that?
Yes, sorry, just to clarify that, do you mean like, so confidence is more internal and assertive is outward effect from the internal characteristic of
Right.
confidence?
So it's the action that you take from your ability of having confidence. So okay, we're in you're in a meeting and whatever is being discussed, but you know it's not settled properly based on your knowledge, lived experience, or whatever. So then you will stand up and you present and you'll articulately present your point. That is the assertiveness in you, right? You haven't just sat back and taken everything that has just been presented and you walk away. Because people don't know that you have the ability to question, right? Because you haven't demonstrated it. So assertiveness is only that which is active. Can we know if you are assertive? Someone who will question, someone who will ask for inquiry or for clarity. Those are aspects of assertiveness because you make yourself known in the sense of your perspective and what it is that you seek. You get that? Okay, we'll come back to it. Anybody else?
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. All right, so communication strategies, right? For the better part of every day, we are communicating to and with others, whether it's the speech you deliver in the boardroom, the level of attention you give to your partner or spouse when they are talking to you, or the look you give the cat or dog, it all means something. The communication strategies help individuals understand the different methods of communication and how to make the most of each of them. These strategies provide a great benefit for any organization and its employees. They will trickle down throughout the organization and positively impact everyone involved. So Merriam-Webster defines communication as a process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, or behavior. Essentially, it's the process by which we share information, ideals, and intentions with each other. For the purposes of this presentation, we'll focus on three most common types of communication. There's verbal communication, the way we speak, whether in a formal setting or through a casual conversation. Written communication, considering how frequently we use emails, text messages, and social media to communicate these days. Being able to communicate well through writing is a vital skill, which obviously I failed on the other slide, right? Behavioral communication, sometimes going by the ambiguous moniker, nonverbal communication. This type of communication includes things like gestures, appearance, and facial expression. All right, so those are the three we're going to focus in on with this presentation. And as I said, you're receiving this whole presentation, so you'll have it. You can look over, go over, you can do even more research on the points. Okay, strategies for effective verbal communication. Focus on the issue, not the person. Be genuine rather than manipulative. So don't try to see what it is you can get over or what you're going to get. Emphasize rather than remain detached. And a lot of us do that. We sit in meetings or settings or family discussions and we are detached. We're not really trying to engage. If it's not an issue we care about, if the person's talking about things that we don't like, we start to shut off, we pick up our little phones and we start to do whatever else. You got to make sure that you want to emphasize this factor of being remained in that community, in that conversation or what's happening, so that if you do have an insight or something that you need to question, you are able to do it with a real reflective mindset, right? Be flexible towards others. A lot of us are rigid in our frameworks, right? This is what we see. This is what we think. My perspective is only right, right? I'm the one that has the highest degree in my family, so you guys don't know anything. Listen, common sense is a big factor. A lot of times, no, they say common sense over book sense. You might be book smart, right? But you're what, fool? Anyone know the adage of the fool there? Any of us? You might be book smart, but you're, well, it's poem fool, right? So that means that you have all this education, but you don't have anything to be able to really work or navigate everyday life. Value yourself in your own experiences because it's your lived experiences that set and aid you to be able to analyze things a little better, deconstruct some of the thoughts and processes that are coming your way. So you want to make sure you value it and use an affirmative responsive. So make sure your statements are clear and that you can acknowledge what it is that is happening or what people are saying. All right, 5 common communication mistakes that we do. Okay, there are many nuanced ways bad communication can manifest, but here are a few of the most common ones. Poor commitment to listening, okay, which goes in hand what we had said a little while ago. Communication is a two-way street, which means being able to listen well is just as important as being able to express yourself effectively. A lack of listening is one of the most communication barriers, and you'll see it pops up frequently in the communication strategy emphasized below. 2, notably weak writing skills. It's not easy to write well, and while you don't need to be a masterful storyteller, you do need to be able to use grammar and your vocabulary to successfully communicate via writing. A lot of times now everyone's like, well, people don't really have to write things anymore. You're going on the computer automatically does spell check for you, but be mindful. The computer will give you spell check, but depending on which word and how you're using the word, it may not correct. I know that some of the new ones that are out there, it gives you the full grammatical frameworks and past tense grammatical. So it will do it for you, but don't be so reliant. You yourself have to make sure that you know verb tense agreements, make sure you're using the aspects of past tense, and have a more expansive vocabulary. I tell people all the time, read and read more and read more. Build your vocabulary. One of the best things that I give credit to my sisters when we came to this country, we did the dictionary game. So every day we had to find 5 new words that out of the dictionary for try to outmaster each other with stuff. And let me tell you, that was like the godsend, because we're able to fling words at people and they're looking at us like, right? Even adults didn't know because we can run circles. We start to have words like crazy. So start even that, the dictionary every day. Find 5 new words or make it 10 new words and be able to use it in sentences, and then find their synonyms and find their antonyms, right? That you know how to use it on both sides and go forward. So there's different ways of making sure you can develop your expansive vocabulary and understanding and meaning to be able to clearly and effectively communicate, right? 3, allowing persistent distractions, sorry. Distractions play a huge part in our daily lives. Even if you ignore a phone call, think about how much a ringing phone can distract you when you're trying to listen to someone. Making assumptions about information or intent. When you are trying to explain something you fully understand, it can be easy to omit vital information because you assume the person or people listening to you are on the same page. This is what happens a lot of times to teachers. Teachers, when they're given instruction, will fly through information at the same time with the professors, right? Because that's their subject matter that they're experts in. So they just speak on the issue, but yet forget to add the little details or to break things down so that students can comprehend. And that's why the questions then get flooded back, because people need it to be deconstructed or give us some form of an analysis of something we can draw some type of comparative analysis with. So make sure when you're communicating, don't assume because you're talking about something that you love and you know so much that everybody else knows about it. Stop and ask, does anyone need clarity? Should I show you an example to make sure people around you really grasp what it is that you are saying? 5 is practicing passive communication. This communication barrier also involves withholding information. Though on a more emotional level, a person who practices passive communication will be reluctant to share things that might make them uncomfortable, such as their fears or angers or sadness or jealousies. And we all know this when we go into meetings or settings and people, the first icebreaker is, tell me about yourself, right? Most people go right into this whole passive communication because, no, I'm not telling you about myself. I don't know you. Right? So people just stick to the very peripheral stuff. But yes, my name is, and I may have this degree or I work here, and that's it. A lot of people don't want to go into other aspects when it comes to icebreakers. Questions and thoughts so far on what we've been covering? All right. Okay. Verbal communication further. So make sure to practice active listening, right? We need to remove distractions, as we just said before. Put the phones down. If you're going into a meeting or a family calls a session, your mother says she wants to speak to you, dad wants to speak to you, don't have your phone in your hand. Put the phone away, put it in the bag, put it away. Don't even turn it down on the table, because your inkling and your mindset is to still try to figure out if that phone is ringing or something's going to happen. Show the individual that you're giving them your full attention, right? So put the phone away completely, or whatever else you might have on or listening to, and give people eye contact. It's very important that you're giving individuals eye contact. Okay. Recognize and call out your emotions, right? So if a conversation is likely to cause you to feel some difficult emotions, it's important to call them out verbally, even though it might be hard. Try to speak with sentences that state with, I feel, to help convey your perspective. For example, you might tell your partner, I feel stressed out after work, and I need some time to decompress when I come home. So a lot of times when people just walk through the door, it's like, oh, how was your day? And what are we doing? And we're going to do this. And you feel bombarded. And whether that's your family that's asking you, make sure to make your statement so people can understand your level and where you're at. Even talking about finances. Some people don't like to talk about finances because right now you might be in a precarious job situation, or you don't have a job and you're doing school. So all of those are complexities that come to play. You're working hard, but yet you don't have finances to do some of the simple things to just enjoy life. A lot of that is stressful, right? Because everybody also feels that people are looking at you like, how come you don't have a car? And why can't you go to the movie? Or why can't you just come out with us? Like, girl, why are you still so poor? Right? All these little statements and things that people like to do. And it's like, you don't understand the complexities of my life. You don't know what I may have to go under. And just because I can't go out with you right now, or maybe because I'm doing TTC, doesn't make me poor. I have a rich life. I just don't have the economics to spend and to do thrifty things that you're doing. Right? So just be mindful of that. It is a far better way to show your true feelings rather than something like, I hate talking to you when I get home from work. You don't want to be negative with the people you're dealing with. Just clearly state your points. It's better to always just be open and frank rather than to try to run around the bush or to make statements that aren't true. And then later on, people will call you out on it. So if you don't want to go somewhere, just say, I don't want to go, right? I don't feel to go to that place, or I'm not feeling it. Just say that rather than say, oh, I got something I got to do, or oh, I'm not sure. Because then people will circle back to that to say, oh, you're never going to anything and you just stayed home, you were lying to me, and you don't want to bring that up, right? 4, prepare for tricky situations, right? So if you know something is coming up, or you have a colleague that you know has been just waiting to trip you up, continually questioning your knowledge or your understanding about something, prep, right? Prep. Know your subject matter. Try to figure out different questions that are happening. If you have a family member or colleague you're close to, have them throw out questions to you so that you're prepared for what potentially could be coming. Because the best defense is an offense. Always be prepared for the potential questions that are coming at you from your colleagues or your bosses, or potentially the environment of people or guests that are going to be in an audience. Always think of the counter questioning that will come. Don't think everyone is in a space to just support and laugh with you. There will be people trying to throw you a counterpunch, right? Take a speech class or a course if you feel you have anxiety or you easily get tripped up. There are tons that are on the website, or if you have people that you have trust in, that you know that you can start to speak, then they will spend the time with you to cultivate. You want to work with those people. I'll do that for sure with people. They want to do that to develop that skill set. The main thing though, to be confident in public speaking, is to know your subject matter. That's one of the key things, because once you are more informed and versed, you have more of a fluidity in what it is you're saying, because it's in a natural frame of your ethos and a natural frame of your consciousness, so you can talk about it. Right? Then you just have to figure out, what will my cadence be in my speech? Am I going to be a fast speaker? Because I'm a natural fast speaker. I have to remember at certain times I have to do a pause, or I have to try to make sure I slow down. But my natural cadence is a fast cadence. I always say to audiences at the very beginning, I speak fast. Do not be afraid to put the hand up and say, Miss Blackburn, please slow down, or can you reiterate, or can you restate, or find me an example. All right, because a lot of times I also have the verbose vocabulary, so words fly over people's head. And I tell people, put up your hand and ask for clarity, because that's how we all learn. And I might be caught up in my own frame that everybody knows, and I have to break it down. So make sure, do the speech classes, but know your subject matter. The more you're versed, the more knowledgeable, and the better it is for you with delivering your public speaking. Any questions?
No question, but like I like earlier on when you're talking about I, because when you use I as, it just symbolizes ownership and like a deeper sense of self, right? So I really agree. I agreed with that earlier on.
Okay. Next, your written communication, right? Writing doesn't come easy to everyone, and even if you are a perfect grammarian, it still takes, see this, look at this. I just gave you guys written communication, and look at my grammatical errors. You see when you're copy and pasting and you're not looking? Jesus. All right, all the more that you'll know it's important. I'm glad I can laugh at myself. All right, so we need to fix this, right? Build the communication effectively on the page. Here are some written communication strategies to help you, right? 6, get your grammar and mechanics down pat. There's always that person that's in the audience. For me, it's my sister. My sister is the English Lit major and Miss Grammatical everything. So she'll catch, that. No, you made an error there. Fix it. No, comma is in the wrong place. Don't need to have a comma there. And did you mean this word? I think you could have used this word, right? So my sister's one of those that will be in the audience and then be like, now fix it, right? So there's always someone at work listening to your diction. There's always someone listening to your grammar. There is always someone finding the flaw that is transitioning. So be prepared about it, right? So where you can go back, and you can simply go to what's the bookstore called? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank now. What's our major bookstore?
Chapters, Indigo.
Chapters in Indigo. They have the simple grammatical syntax. The book is like, I think this very thin, but it goes through all the sentence verb agreements and syntax and grammatical frameworks and punctuation. It's a simple, easy read. Grab that and just flip through to just reinforce some of the pieces you may have forgotten or didn't grasp that strongly in school. And it's one of the best tools, right? And then if you're like me and you're creating your PowerPoints late at night, take the time to go back over to make sure you catch the errors, especially when you're doing copy and pasting over. You want to make sure that you can clarify, okay? Because written communications are just as solid as your verbal. So when you look at when we look at aspects further, so organize and format information for your reader. So when writing an email or text message, try to put yourself in the mind of the reader and determine what information they will need. If you need to convey a lot of information, use headers, numbered lists, bullet points, and bolded text to make it easier for people to quickly digest the information they need. The more time you take to organize the information for your reader, the less time you'll have to spend repeating yourself later when the people ask for details. Other aspects, edit, edit, edit again, to my point of what I'm saying that I did not do last night with this. It is all too easy to write up a quick response to something and hit send without reading it again, but then it is a surefire way to end up sending a messy, confusing bit of written information, particularly when with longer forms of written comms, which is communication. Be sure to read over your text again, not only eliminating typos, but also trimming down wordy phrases. Okay, have an inbox strategy. So I'm one of these people, but I purposely do it because I don't like to delete any form of emails. I keep everything. Just even on my work email, I think I have something like almost 20,000 emails, and I will not remove it. I've now started to put them into file folders, but I do not delete anything because that's my strategy. So if anybody comes back to me for anything, I can always pull up an email. But for a lot of people that don't like the clutter, don't like the mess, make sure delete what you know you don't need, or if you have ads that come into your mailbox, get rid of that. prioritize them into folders. So if you know, if it's the head CEO, if the company sends you messages, create a folder for them. If it's your immediate boss, you do that. Or if it's for your marketing, you know, have a folder that's for your ad agencies or whatever the case is. So that way you can readily get to information you need. You don't want to leave a lot of unread messages because you're missing vital information. It might have been something embedded and key to a deadline, and then you weren't able, sorry, Jess, can you mute? Can you
Yeah,
mute
sorry.
and then that way you can still see in here. So you definitely want to make sure that that's looked at. All right, part 3, your behavioral communication strategies. Okay, there are many ways you can communicate without moving your mouth or pen across a page. Let's look at some of the nonverbal communication strategies you can use to improve. So in this case, Malika was saying she just would look fun to people that were giving her a form of headache type of a deal or using the wrong words. Your body language says a great deal, right? So consider your appearance. A lot of times we like to say, you know, we shouldn't be so caught up on the superficial, but we're dealing with the work environment, it still counts. Even though we're working from home and we've all become very comfortable in this online learning, people, you know, have a dress shirt on, but in their underwears, et cetera, you still want to make sure when we come back out, or even when you might be doing an online interview or you have a session, still have yourself groomed in a manner that still always looks professional, because you don't know who is on the line, who is watching, who is graded. And even to the point that we have here now, the sessions have been tape recorded, right? So at some point when all of you are reviewing it for whatever purpose you want to review, your statements, your issues have been captured. So you want people to be able to know who you are. But what I like about this, in reviewing our recordings, you know that you're just seeing the general laid back framework of individuals because we're comfortable and we're just having a conversation, right? So always know the bits about our audience. Anything there? Okay. Work on your eye contact. A lot of people like to, you know, have your eyes dance all over the place, or you look down, you don't feel comfortable, so your eyes are going. No. If I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to you. So I'm looking at you. Then I can always look away because I may have to look at a board or whatever I might be reading, but I then come back again to my audience. I look at my audience, right? Because you want people to know that you're engaged. You may have to look away to take in whatever you might be reading, but look at your audience. Make your eyes track up, that if you are in a room that has the elevated, look up to the people at the back. Look to the people in the middle. Look to your right. Look to your left. Let everyone that's in the room feel that they've been included in your conversation, right? And a lot of times, sometimes we'll just zoom into one person because that's our friend in the room, so we just feel comfortable to talk to them. No, let that person be your first initial eye contact projection point, but then you want to make sure you take in the whole room and get that comfort level in. If it's just a one-on-one, definitely you want to look at the person. And because you don't want your eyes to either track down, because if it's a female, if you track down, then people can accuse you of potentially looking at their breasts rather than looking at their face. And then if people may have, you know, someone has a pimple in the middle of their forehead, try not to make your eye track to the pimple on their forehead, right? Or if they have food in their teeth, a lot of times we're just looking at the food in people's teeth or whatever. But be mindful to just tell them, oh, you had something in your tooth. I just wanted to let you know that, right? Because you don't want the people walk away thinking that they look great. Meanwhile, they have a green piece or a black piece of lettuce still stuck in their teeth. That doesn't look good, right? So we'll just honest the conversation. Record a conversation with a friend. This will also help you in the sense of preparing for your cues that you give, because body language give cues, right? So you want to be able to watch to see, how is your cadence? How are the words that you use? Are you looking down too much? Are your eyes jumping all over the place? So that way you can fix it. In particular, again, if you say that you're not that confident originally doing any type of public speaking, or you're not good with the interview skill, you want to make sure, practice a little recording, and then find where you can insert and fix those little areas that you need some assistance with. Any questions? Everybody good so far? Okay. All right, so improve your posture. A lot of us like to slouch, and in particular, because we're online now, everybody's doing the whole this, right? Everybody's leaning over, or everybody's eating, or they're drinking, whatever the case is. Let's get back to the posture. Remember, Your buttocks should hit the back of the chair, so that way you automatically just do a lean and your shoulders are up and they're back a bit. So that way your posture is sit appropriately and you're up. If you're standing, make sure it's always, you should have your feet, shoulders apart, and that you have your stomach tucked back in, and that when you breathe, you're pulling from the diaphragm. And again, head up so that you're taking everybody in with regards to your posture. And feel comfortable to walk a room, right? When you're comfortable, you can walk your room, because again, you know your information and you're engaging the people into your conversation. Because when you're in a room and you have a presenter who's able to walk around and come to different people and ask questions or smile with the individual, it aids everyone to feel like they're really involved with what's happening. So you want to look at that. You want to also present with the fact that you yourself are comfortable in your shell. Now, granted, I've had people have been like, well, Ms. Blackburn, I have lower doses or I have scoliosis and I have issues, and just the way my, over the years, I now have rolled shoulder and that. Well, the main thing I still say to people, if you may have a natural rolled shoulder, you got to do and practice the rolling back your shoulder. So that way in time, rather than this slump position, you will naturally, because in presentation time to roll it back, you will hold that. It'll feel a little bit discomfort at first, but you will land back into the comfort of what that becomes. And it's even sometimes a natural thing that halfway through the day, roll back your shoulders so that you feel that you need to put back your posture appropriately. Okay. Watch for nonverbal cues. By now, you should know that listening is a big part of effective communication strategy. This means you should be constantly watching the body language and facial expressions of those you are talking to. A lot of presenters lose this. They lose their audience because they're not watching the audience. That's why I say you got to look around and see people. Because if you start your presentation, now with the presentation, people now are slumped, or you got people doing this, their eyes are closed, or they've taken out their phone and you see them looking at their phone, or they're doodling on their piece of paper, you have lost your audience. So you got to figure out where you need to either stop, pause, and ask people to give you input or insight or questions so that you can try to draw them back in. Maybe your voice has become too monotone. Maybe you've started to draw a little bit too much. You were too repetitive. Those are things that you got to be mindful as you go along through that presentation. Any questions, any thoughts? Okay. Other areas that you will need for your skill sets, right? So digital citizenship, okay? You have the guidance, knowledge, and competency needed to need in an ever-changing, challenging digital world. As our lives are lived more and more online, we all need to translate our social skills into the virtual world. So digital citizenship allows us to connect, collaborate, and share by using technology appropriately. In-person meetings are on the decline, which means it is necessary to engage people digitally. Being a good digital citizen means you have a set of skills to work in the digital world. So mobile learning, or M-learning, right, is what it's known as. So when you see on a job application, you must have M-learning, that is mobile learning. It is defined as the delivery of learning, education, or training on mobile devices, such as mobile phones, tablets, laptops, or PDAs. M-learning allows training and support to be taken anywhere, maybe making it flexible and convenient for companies to use. By absorbing the ins and outs of utilizing M-learning, individuals possess the skills needed to take advantage of this new technology in order to educate employees and clients more efficiently. So staying abreast of all of the new platforms and issues that are going on, and being able to do the Mentimeters and all these little new meeting spaces and things that you can do, knowing Brightspace, knowing how to use Zoom, knowing how to use Google Meet, all of these different platforms. Educate yourself in knowing them, because depending on the work environment, if you can come in and help them to streamline their work, you're a valuable asset to them. So get on your M-learning game, so that way you know what's new, what's trending, to be able to make you valuable. All right, so your negotiation skills are qualities that allow two or more parties to reach a compromise. These are often soft skills and include abilities such as communication, persuasion, planning, strategizing, and cooperating. Understanding these skills is the first step to becoming a stronger negotiator. Although people often think of boardroom suites and million-dollar deals when they hear the word negotiation, the truth is that we negotiate all the time. Through this workshop, participants will be able to understand the basic types of negotiations, the phases of negotiations, and the skills needed to succeed in negotiating. Negotiation skills workshop, will give your participants a sense of understanding their opponent and have the confidence not to settle for less than they feel is fair. Your participants will learn that any atmosphere of respect is essential, as unseen negotiations could be problems in their future. So your main aspect when you're talking about dealing with negotiations is finding out what your strengths are. You want to try to be able to delineate what is your opponent's skills. So that way, when in the art of the debate, when you're trying to deal with issues to get your points across, you are championing or you're leveling your key points to make sure that you are completely adhered to. Sorry. Yes, Jamie. Jamie, I'm going. Okay. Okay, hold on. I got to call Rob. I will try to get over to that. Give me a few minutes. You guys hold on 1 second for me, please. I'm sorry about that. Okay. So for your negotiations, your communication skills are essential. Your nonverbals, your active listening and using the clear voice are what are key to be able to assist you in the things that you require. Other aspects is planning. In order to reach an agreement that benefits both parties, crucial that you consider how the consequences will impact everyone in the long term, right? So in your goal of negotiation, what benefits you, what benefits them, how could the organization or the institution or group not be able to have a positive outcome depending on what happens. You want to look at all sides of an issue. And again, to strategize, you want to make sure you're coming in with what is the best points of arguments to be able to level an equal playing ground that is beneficial mostly for you. And if this is the case of your scenario and the case for your group, you want to find that. But where compromises may have to come into play, you have to give and take a bit. Always be open to do that. And tips for improving your negotiation skills. You want to identify the final goal. So what is your outcome that you're trying to seek? Practice building rapport, because you need other people to be allies and to be on board with what you're doing. So to my point, you want to reach out and converse with everybody that's in your working environment or the institution or organization or business that you are in. Not everyone is going to be your friend, but there's nothing wrong with having that rapport of collegiality. You want to make sure you have that. Be willing to compromise, as I've stated a few times. Consider imposing time restrictions in the conversation. So if you're having a meeting with a certain group, say, listen, we have an hour and an hour is all that we have. And we're going to have to try to make sure that we come to some conclusion or we have to find another time and date. Take the multiple offer approach, so put different things on the table for people to be able to pick from, so it doesn't feel like there's only one definitive item. Exercise confidence, so be confident in that room and the negotiation, the conversation. That comes with being versed and understanding your points and know what is being discussed. Don't take no personally, because you're going to have different sides, so don't think it's a full attack on you. It could be about the issue or the benefits that are being talked about. Understand your weaknesses. So where you don't have the full communication or understanding, make sure you know that. Again, research to help prop you up some more or have something to rely on. And again, practice, because the more you practice, the better you become with regards to your negotiation skill sets. And then the soft skills. Soft skills can be defined as character traits or interpersonal aptitudes that affect your ability to work and interact with others. They are natural abilities that usually can't be taught in a classroom or managed quantitatively. They are often, but not always, people skills. I just want to leave, I'm going to have to, I'm seeing the time, and as you guys can see, I'm being called. I need for you guys to look at the soft skills that we're gonna have. So Uju, I need this to be sent to everyone. So ladies, before you leave the chat, can you make sure your emails are typed into the chat so that they have it to send to you? Sorry, Paul? Paul? Yeah, I'm not on the call, Paul. I'm in my other call, so I can't help anybody at the moment. I'm gonna be late getting to the call. Oh, okay, well, I'm not on it yet, so that means everybody probably can't get in. I don't know, I'm not on the call, Paul. I'm on another call, Paul, so I'll have to get on there in a minute. Okay, bye. Sorry. Please look at the soft skills. The time just goes so fast. I need you to review the soft skills and know the difference between what is the soft skill and a hard skill. I have everything that is outlined in here for you. I have outlined the top 10 soft skills that you're going to have to know. Each of the top 10 soft skills, oh Lord Jesus, have been clearly broken down for you. So each one, I have it so that you can go in and you understand under communications, what is communication, what are the soft skills you need. Under teamwork, what that also is required. Adaptability in your problem solving, in your creativity, when we're talking about work ethic, when you're dealing with your interpersonal skills, when you're dealing with time management, what you require for leadership, and then attention to details. So all of the key aspects and factors are laid down. Uju, do we have everyone's email? I just want to make sure before I get off, do we have everyone's email so we can send them the PowerPoint?
Yeah, I have most of their emails, and some of them are dropping it on the chat room, so I have their email.
Okay, so fantastic. Because here now, you ladies, for tomorrow, because tomorrow, I mean, not tomorrow, Thursday is the interview and skills component of what we're going into, and then the stepping out. Main thing in, when you go back over those key aspects of the soft skills, I need you to have a good understanding to prepare yourself. So don't be afraid to say you don't know. Ask questions, research, research, research. Talk to people and pick their brains, right? Take courses. There's lots of free courses online in areas that you think you don't have the knowledge or the skills. Go do the research and look at it. Volunteer for committees, for boards, etc. All of this builds your resume. Seek out opportunities that will aid to build your soft skills. Invest in yourself. So wardrobe, hairstyle, etiquette classes, etc. to improve, invest. Entrepreneurial spirit, start your own mini business. Don't be afraid of failure nor rejection. Brush yourself off and get back up in all learning lessons are to a bigger and better things ahead. Stay positive in spite of hardships or disappointments, and be you. So your task. And look at that very first word is come prepared, right? And it's together, right? Come prepared for your interview tomorrow, which will be for Thursday. Okay? The questions I'm going to ask you for you to be prepared with. So, who are you? What do you bring to the job? What transferable skill sets or knowledge do you bring? How can or will you aid this company? Why should we hire you? Do you have any questions? So good luck, ladies. Bring your A game and know you are intelligent, articulate, and versed. You got this. All right. So that is what you need to be prepared for with the interview. Now, what's not fair, I'm going to randomly pick people. I'm going to let you guys see I've got names. Whoever shows up on the screen, I'm putting your names in a little hat, and I'm going to pull your name out. So don't think I picked on you from the very beginning. I'm going to pull a hat. Others get to watch and see, so they're going to prepare themselves. But what I'm going to try not to do is keep myself from giving any feedback, so that way nobody else gets a leg up. But of course, people will be listening to people's answers and will probably take and morph and change and add. So by the time we finish, the last person should be flawless, but all those things that I will still judge. Any questions before we conclude today?
Yes. In regards to the job, what should we be thinking about when we're answering the question? What job?
You got to think about what type of job do you think you're going to go for. I'm not going to give you the career yet.
Okay.
So leaving you to think about plain and simple, who are you, right? What do you bring to the job? So thinking a big member, I just gave you this whole PowerPoint that's on soft skills, negotiation skills, right? So look over the PowerPoint to take things out to craft, to be able to give me the key pieces. Because no matter what the job is, if you're going for a marketing job, a project management, a teaching, whatever, there are base platform conversations you should be able to talk about, right? So what do you bring to the job? You should be able to tell me you have leadership, you should have organization, you should have time. Again, look at what's already presented and know how to take things out to be able to sell. So I'm not gonna, I gave you too much even right there.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Yes, Eva, I was wondering, so do we keep it general as well too for the company, or do you want, will you be giving us like a random company, or do you want us to come with a company in mind prepared?
Nope, I'll give you a company. I want to see how well you can look at everything you have received in the last 4 weeks where you have learned from employment payroll, human resources, human rights, mindfulness, to anti-Black racism, oppression, and all of those pieces. Gather all of that information to help you to be able to tool this and have yourself ready for an interview.
Perfect. And my other question is, will we be receiving the other slides along with this one, or?
Uju and Gavin will let you know if they're forwarding that. I'm hoping that you can have everything by the time we're ready for Thursday. They will better be able to apprise you of the access to the other systems. I'm not part of the technology piece, so they'll have to do that. I have 2 more minutes, guys. My phone is blowing up. I'm supposed to be on a lead on another call. So other questions quickly, please.
I have a question. Should this be like almost like an elevator pitch, like very short and kind of to the point, or is it more like a
broad base? You want to make it more broad base, right? So seeing that you've received various presentations, you should be able to pull out, again, I don't want to give it to you, this lets me know who's really paying attention, how to develop yourself. You should be able to pull pieces out from the different presentations just to land in a conversation. And then if I give you a company, you should be able to just able to transition and land that appropriately, okay? So keep more broad base. So even with like, when you think about the who are you, that can be more succinct because you should know who you are. But remember, you're speaking, you're trying to sell. Remember, it's a sell, right? So the more you can tell me, the more you can give, that lands you in the basic conversation is where you want to be.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And
I'm not going to keep it constrictive because I want you guys to be thinkers. I want you to see how can you pull everything in from what you've learned and known and been provided. How can you develop yourself?
I see. Also, thank you so much for doing these sessions. I was also wondering if you were really willing to share, I don't know, kind of information so that I can contact you, you know, later on.
Sarah, I'll do all of that tomorrow. So as noted, so I will be, I've said I'll be a mentor to you guys. Yinka will be a mentor. Sharon said she'll be a mentor. So all of those things I'll wrap up tomorrow at the end, and there will be a post. Uji will explain to you about there's an evaluation you'll have to do. I'm just sorry, today's the day that I really have needed to be off of this call right at 12. And as you can see, my phone is blowing up. I'm a lead on another phone call that is happening. So take this, run with it, prepare for it. I heard Uji say that she had it on your email. Please make sure your emails are there so that you can get this information and then just be ready to roll tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much.